What does it take to turn mushroom cultivation into more than just a weekend project? For many at home growers, mushroom cultivation's almost spiritual, a labor of love, a patient relationship between you and every tub. But today's online cultivation community is exploding with newcomers. And for them, finding the right vendors has become a serious challenge. With big players chasing profits and cutting corners, who's left to support the people keeping the craft alive at home? For those who care about every step of the process, from spawn to fruiting, quality matters, reliability matters, integrity matters. And that's where Zerk of Brown Treasure Substrates stands out. Zerk doesn't just sell supplies, he understands the journey, the frustrations, and the victories that home cultivators experience. Brown Treasure is built on a commitment to serve you, the grower, with products that make your work easier, better, and more rewarding. So today, we're going deeper into Zerk's story, how he's fighting to keep integrity in the myco world, and why Brown Treasure Substrates has become a trusted name for home growers everywhere. Whether you're nurturing your first jar of drippy corn or dialing in your 10th Martha tent setup, tonight's conversation's about why all our work matters and how people like Zerk are here to help growers succeed. Yo, welcome to the MycoGeeky podcast, where we explore the fascinating world of mushrooms and the people who love them. From expert cultivators to passionate foragers, we bring you deep conversations, cutting-edge insights, and everything mycology. Whether you're a seasoned mycophile or just curious, we invite you to geek out with us on the wonders of fungi and join the mushroom movement. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the MycoGeeky podcast, the podcast that goes deep so you can level up your at-home mushroom cultivation game. I'm your host, MycoGeeky, and we got a great show for you tonight. I am super excited. I get to sit down with one of my buddies. I don't got a lot of buddies in Puerto Rico. Basically two, Willie Myco and Zerk of Brown Treasure Substrates. So anyway, tonight's going to be a good one. I've had Zerk on before. It was more like a promotional thing. We're really getting into it tonight. I'm going to find out who he is, what he's all about, and why I like this guy so much. Before we do that, though, man, I saw this real cool video this week. My buddy Stealthy Sports, he's got that new 2024 fall deck, the last deck of the year coming out. And he did a little promo video, so let's check it out. All right, kind of exciting. I gotta get me that 2024 fall Stealthy Sports deck, man. Oh man, guess what? Promo code Geeky gets you 10% off. Proceeds go to Myco Mamas and their mycelium revolution. What else we got going on tonight? Yeah, we might be doing some giveaways in the Discord. I think we're giving away what we got going on right now. Giving away a couple mono carry-on isolations from Natural State Mycology. I'm gonna have some stuff from Dichotomous Keys coming up here later in the week. So yeah, check out Discord for some giveaways. Um, I got some stuff sitting on the shelves back here. We got to get them out to some people. So we're gonna be doing that. What else, man? Got some cool episodes coming up. Don't want to let too much out of the bag, but I'm excited. So hopefully you guys will be excited as well. It's that time, holiday season. Just got the Christmas tree up for the kitty pops, and we're going to be out of town for the holidays. we have not spent any time in like the last 11 years with my wife's brother. He's up in Portland, Oregon, so we're gonna go up there, hang out a little bit, and see the cousins and all that good stuff. I hope you guys get a chance to see some of your family, your friends, have a good time during the holidays. That's what it's all about. Uh, you know, don't talk politics. I already mentioned that. All right, guys. So I had a really good time talking to Zerk. He's an awesome dude, man. I'm telling you, I got a soft spot for really nice people, and he is one of them. So let's get into it. All right, welcome to the show, Zerk of Brown Treasure Substrates. What's up, man?
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So we've had you on once before, briefly, but I think it's about time that we do a full-fledged episode. Let's really get into who Zerk is, tell your story, all that stuff, because I can tell you this, guys. Brown Treasure has, in my opinion, the best poo sub out there. I've messed with a lot of poo substrate, and it's really high quality. It's exceptional, and so I get a lot of people these days. I think way more than I ever used to, just in my DMs asking me who to buy stuff from. And so, I got my short list of people, and you're definitely on that short list, especially for people who are now getting more and more interested in growing exotics, Paniolocyanescence, things like that. So I was like, you know what? Let's have you back on the show. So here we are. Let's do it. Um, I want to ask you, just to start everything off. We always do this. I want to know your very first memory of seeing a mushroom. That first mushroom memory.
Oh wow. Um, you're talking about like just mushrooms in general or like specifically psychedelics? Well, I'll tell you the very first early mushroom memories I had was me as a little kid stomping on puffballs. They just fascinated me. It's definitely not the reason I got into mycology, but it is my earliest memory. And it would be loads of fun. Loads of fun just being a little kid finding the puffballs. After a while, I got to recognizing them. I know what they did. And as soon as I would see one in the schoolyard, I'd just run up to it and I'd start stomping it, seeing these little cool little clouds that it would make. And man, it would just be like super entertaining to me. So that's about the earliest I remember of taking any kind of interest in mushrooms at all, at that time.
I like that. That's a new one. That's a new version of the first mushroom memory. So yes, love it. Um, I remember puffing them. I used to pick them and walk up to my sister and say, "Hey," and she'd turn and look, and I'd puff it in her face. Obviously, maybe that was not the smartest thing to do, but I was a kid in the '70s. I didn't know any different, so I was having fun. But cool, man. All right, so then do this. So you are, for anybody that's been around, people know who you are. You got a great Discord. You've been around for quite a while. But you had origins, that brought you to this, to doing what you do now. So what I want to do is get us to where you are now by going back a bit. So take me all the way back. Um, we gotta go way back. I wanna go to when you are a small business owner, um, in the mainland, and, how that was, what the vibe was like, and why you decided to sell everything and move to Puerto Rico and start making Substrate.
Let's go just a little bit previous to that. I have always had an intense fascination with psychedelics. Um, ever since ever since I had my first experience, I've just been completely blown away by it. Um, my mind has always been a very skeptical mind. I I have a tendency of just being able to have an explanation for everything, if that makes sense. And, once you can kind of explain everything, you can explain life, you can explain the formula of life like this, that, I die, everything is like that. There's one part of it that just doesn't seem to make any sense at all. Shouldn't even be there, shouldn't even really exist. But when I experienced it for the first time, um, it blew me away. It completely blew me away. So we can get into all that, but I just wanted to say that when I was younger and I had my first psychedelic experiences, it definitely was a huge contributing factor to where I am right now. And we can get into all those stories as well. But to answer your question, I remember where I was when I first found out that you could buy mushroom products online to cultivate at home. I was sitting. I was a business owner. I had some friends that I did some business with at my gas station, and I was sitting around at a table with them. We were passing around a blunt, and and one of them told me, like, "Hey, man, like, what you know about mushrooms?" And I was like, "Mushrooms? Like, like, I love them. Like, you got any?" you know. And he said, "Well, you can just go online and you can buy the stuff to grow it yourself, right?" It's like that moment where you remember where you were, kind of moment. Like, there's moments in my life where I remember exactly where I was. I remember exactly what I was doing when something amazing happened. And as soon as he said that, it's like the entire world just stopped rotating for a moment, and I just looked up, and all of a sudden it's like I was looking at something that wasn't there, and I was like, it's like, what did you just say? you know and and he's like, yeah, man, you can, it's legal, man. Like, the spores, they're legal. You can just go online, you can buy the spores, you can buy the things that you need. And I was like, what? Like, like in North Carolina, those are extremely difficult to find. I mean, it's very difficult. I didn't know anybody who had them. That's why when he brought it up, I got so excited. Because I was like, you mean you have a way of getting it? Like, it's like, it's so hard to find anybody getting it at all. So during that time, he told me that, and it's like, man, like that very night, like that same day, I didn't ask permission from my wife. I just like did it, man. I just like started Googling it and looking it up, and I found, all these companies. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know this was here. And I just immediately ordered the products immediately, and got those in, and that's where we started cultivating right there.
Man. All right. So how long ago was that? Like what year are we talking?
Maybe 2019.
All right. So first thing I want to say is this. Now I know why I can buy Swisher Sweets at right at the front of every gas station. And it's because it's not just because people want to buy it. It's because, all right, you gas station owners, you also want to roll a blunt from time to time. Okay, I like that. Very cool. All right, so what is that like now? So you are like an individual gas station owner. You're not just a entity of Sunoco or anything like that. So, man, what is that like? That can't be easy.
That is very, very difficult, I'll say, because you're an independent, unbranded gas station, just like a mom and pop is what they call it, right? Yeah, we were a mom and pop, right?
Like, where did you get the idea to start a gas station? It's one of those things where I don't even know, like, who does it. Where I thought just all the gas companies owned all these gas stations.
It was kind of like a best opportunity thing. It was my best opportunity at the time, because my father um, owned several stores. Right? He's been in the gas station game for quite a while.
Okay, so it was a family
Yeah.
business. Okay.
Yeah, it was a family business, and he got me my first store, and but we were just one independent store with in the face of all these big mega corporations whose real cost is way lower than yours, because they got their own terminals, they got their own distribution, they got the whole vertical integration. And so it's trying to compete with all these big boys just being the small fish in the pond. and it's very difficult. They got all the marketing, they got all the shiny packaging and the pretty ribbons and everything, and that's what people go for. So trying to differentiate yourself in that market that's already like completely saturated was very, very difficult for me and my family. We struggled a lot. We struggled for many years, in the gas station business. We made it. I did manage to differentiate myself, in various ways, but it was no like, it was no like big like money making, like I'm just like filthy rich. No, it was you got bills to pay, you got overheads to pay, you got to pay your employees, you got to pay all that stuff, and you have very little at the end for you. Like our family, we would be seeing our employees going off on vacation and doing over this, and we're like, crap, like they're living the life, you know.
Oh man, I know. I've run a business, and I'm not gonna tell you how much money I paid just in workers' comp every month. Insane amounts of money. Insane amounts of money. I'm working 1 week a month just to pay for that. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard running a small business these days in a country that is clearly favoring major corporations and shareholders. That American dream, that entrepreneurial spirit, hey, we can keep talking about it all we want, but it's hard.
100%. I mean, when my dad, because he'd been doing it for decades. So when my dad was doing it, he was during the time period where you could actually make money on products. You could easily make a 30 or 40% markup on every single item in the store, no issues. But nowadays, it's just not the case. I mean, there's several things that you just kind of have to give away, to get people into the door. It's like it's a challenge.
I bet. So that was, that paid the bills, but it was a lot of work. Obviously, it was like sort of a career path inherited from your dad. And I know back in the day, I knew a guy whose dad owned McDonald's, and apparently, if you own one McDonald's, you ain't got anything. You got to own like 5, 6, or 7 of them, and then you can make some nice money. But it's a difference owning one thing, running one business, and owning 6 or 7. Yeah,
And getting from that one to the multi store chain is like, I mean, it's sometimes it seems just like a fantasy, like something that you would dream about, but nothing that you would ever actually be able to do, you know.
all right, so you were doing that. You were trudging through, doing the standard American thing, which is doing what your dad did, going to work every day, trying to make it happen, running a business. And how do you go from that to going, get me the hell out of here? I'm trying to go to Puerto Rico
Well,
and do something else.
right. So I had been doing that for a while, like over a decade.
Hmm.
I would work like sometimes 70, 80 hours a week. I would be running the register, and doing all the paperwork, A to Z, talking to vendors, keeping control of the prices, sweeping, mopping, cleaning the bathrooms. We didn't have a whole lot of money, so I couldn't just have like a full staff. Like I had to cover part of the payroll myself, and so I would spend like a large portion of my life being inside the gas station. That's all I would see was just the inside of the gas station, and that was like my life. And we were paying the bills. I was able to support a family. We had a house, and we didn't live the life of luxury, but I was making a life for myself, but I was extremely unhappy with what I was doing, because it was just a means to an end. It was no real passion of mine really to be like gas station Zerk, right? But so having said that, I was doing it for over a decade. Same four walls for a long time. Um, I started um, I started growing mushrooms, you know, and I started getting into that. Now, let me say that older me having mushroom experiences was a lot different than younger me having mushroom experiences. Um, it like I actually like started like doing some experimentation on it, right? You know, first grow I did, I had success, golden teachers. I had some mushrooms, so I started doing these experiments with the golden teachers. And like one experiment I did was I would start with 0.1 grams and see how that was, and then like a few days later take 0.2, and then like a few days later take 0.3 and 0.4 and 0.5, and then like kind of like try to understand the differences in different dosages. The experiment ended at like 1.7, you know, when I actually started getting quite afraid, and things just stopped being fun all of a sudden, at that point in time. But having done that, and experimenting with having some intense experiences. Well, when you have intense experiences on mushrooms, it goes deep. It brings up the past, it brings up your childhood, it brings up things that you didn't even remember, you didn't even know that you had issues with. Memories come back. And there was a lot that came up that I realized that I needed to deal with. There was a lot that it helped me with. It changed my life, really. It changed my perspective. I actually never really knew about the medicinal benefits of mushrooms, until later on, until I did it, as an adult, when I was just cultivating and growing it for the first time. So having had, I mean, a lot of people will kind of like tell you this, but once they've had those intense experiences and it changed their life, you kind of like start having a new kind of vision. you know um Cultivation started taking over in my life. uh the gas station just seemed pointless. Like I started thinking about, what does my life mean? Like what am I really doing? Like, what at the end of it all, what can I really say? That I contributed to people's addictions. Unfortunately, to make it in the gas station world, you have to have all the stuff that kind of feeds people's addictions. Whether it's like candy or unhealthy like things that you could eat or put into your body, alcohol, blunts, cigarettes, even gasoline, pollutes the environment. I mean, it's almost like not to mention the gambling. So it seems like almost every aspect of that business contributes, it has a negative impact in some way. And that's not who I wanted to be. That's not what I wanted my life to mean. Like I didn't feel bad about providing for my family, but it's the kind of philosophical notions. I deep down inside, the core of who I am as a person is somebody who wants to help. Somebody who wants to, somebody who's good. Somebody who wants to make the world around me a better place. I mean, as cheesy as it sounds, deep down inside, like that's something that I wanted, and I realized that it was an issue, because what I'm doing for a living, I'm not really feeling fulfilled. Like, sure, it's paying the bills, but it's not it's not really meaning too much to me. It doesn't have like real significance. So that being said, I got into cultivating, right? And cultivating was a lot of fun. I actually enjoyed cultivating more than taking the mushrooms. Like it's when I first started, it became kind of a way for me to get the mushrooms, right? Because I was fascinated. But you know, once that kind of like newness kind of faded away on that, it just became all about cultivating at that point in time. Like it's like, man, there's like so much to learn. You know, there's like so much that you can get into. You know, you can get into agar, you can get into grains. Like I wanted to like make my own grains and make my own substrate, and you know, I wanted to like completely. So all that stuff takes a lot of time, you know. So, but I also have family life. I also have gas station life, and then I have my cultivation life, right? So it's like a whole new me was like created. And next thing I know, my wife is complaining to me because, hey, you know, you didn't do this in the store, you didn't do that in the store, you didn't maintain this, you know, we had people over at the house, you were upstairs in the closet, you know, like you know, you can't do this, you know, you have to like prioritize, and you know, you can't just spend all the time cultivating. But really that's all I wanted to do, you know, like, I kind of like found myself kind of just forcing myself to sit through like family things so I could hurry up and get back up to what I was doing. And like it was all about, it became all about that. Slowly that just started taking over, you know. And I was like a sponge, you know. I would try to like look up everything I could about it, you know. I would scour YouTube. I would see like all the content creators, you know. You know, there were several of them on there at that time, you know. And you know, I would the two that most notably stuck out to me the most was Philly Golden Teacher and Willie Myco. And you know, and I would watch both of their videos. I've probably seen every single one of them. And you know, one thing that I noticed about Willie was Willie would always give you that extra, you know, that extra, you know. It's like something basic, like grain preparation or something, like how to prepare grains. Like, you know, you'd see the same thing on every single channel. They would tell you to like pressure cook it for 90 minutes and blah blah blah. But then you watch the Willie Myco video, and there would always be things that you never thought about before, you know, like things that, like something that you thought would be very basic, but all of a sudden, you, after watching Willie, he gives you that extra tidbit, you know. So I was big time into like Willie Myco videos. You know, I loved his videos. I'd just be watching them like all the time. And then I found out that, you know, he had a Discord. You know, he had a, so I got into his Discord channel, and I started having one-on-one meetings with him because, you know, I just had like millions of questions, you know. And so me and him on several times would get into it and be talking and stuff, and you know, we kind of became friends, you know, like doing that. And so during that time, um, I was now COVID came around, right? And you know, you couldn't really go anywhere, you know, during COVID. But me and my wife, like we, you know, we had a chance to go on vacation, so we came to Puerto Rico because it was one of the few places that you could go. You know, you could fly, you know, even though they had like all kinds of restrictions and everything. Um, so she had some family out here, you know, as well. So that's what kind of drew us over here. So we were going and visiting and stuff. And anyways, I don't want to make a huge long story, but we um, we were always looking for kind of like we wanted to have like a vacation rental house, you know. Even so, even though I couldn't really afford it, you know, we found one over here, and you know, I just said yes. And you know, next thing you know, we rented a house over here in Puerto Rico. And you know, I had my gas station and my business in North Carolina. And anyways, I was trying to balance my cultivating with you know, visiting Puerto Rico. And at one point in time, I had asked Willie, "Hey Willie, like, you know, I want to mess around with manure substrate. You know, do you know a good source that I could get some from?" And you know, Willie said, "Hey, you know, man, you know, you're in Puerto Rico. You know, you could probably just, they got farmland all over there. You know, they got all kinds of, you know, you could probably just ask people. They probably give it to you for free." You know, and I said, "Really?" So anyway, I took his advice, and I just kind of went around to a few places, and he was right. He was, they were,
Yeah, the people that own the horses, they don't want the horse shit. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it was a problem for them. And actually, there was one guy who I went to, and he's like, "Look, man, I got all these piles in the woods of horse manure, and I'm the landlord is about to shut down my business in a few weeks." Because I'm not supposed to be dumping it in the woods. He found out I was dumping it in the woods. Now I got to get rid of it all. I got nowhere to go with it. Like I'm going to get evicted. And well, I'm kind of fast forwarding a little bit actually. So we decided to yeah, I kind of skipped over a whole lot. Let me get back to that, right? But basically, yeah, he was right. I found out that there was enormous amounts of manure to be had out here, right?
So you hadn't moved yet, though. You were going there for periods of time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So actually, I had an opportunity because I had somebody who was interested in buying the gas station, right? And I thought it long and hard about it, and I just realized that I wasn't going to be happy doing this forever. I could see myself 10, 15 years from now doing the same exact thing and like being in the same, and it just wasn't very appealing, and I like mushrooms was my new life, at that point. That was my new focus, my new passion. I had realized that this was the passion. This wasn't just something that I'm just doing, just that I'm gonna get tired of. Like I realized there's been plenty of things in the past that I started doing that I eventually became tired of, right? But this was something that was never gonna I was never gonna be bored with it. It's a wheel that could just keep on turning forever, forever and ever. And so I decided that this was gonna be my life. This is what I was gonna devote my life towards. And wow, man, there's so much in this story, right? Okay, let me talk about one thing here, right? My wife, right? My wife gave me permission to talk about this, all right? And myself. Okay, it's not just about it's about what mushrooms meant for us. What it meant for our family. All right. Forgive me if I'm skipping around here, but for me personally, right? I When I was growing up, I got bullied a lot. Okay, I was a nice skinny kid. I was like super skinny. I was like a tiny stick, right? This kid who was nice and kind and quiet and you know I'm like the prime target for bullies. Like they just saw me. It's like, hey, there he is, get him, right? Kind of thing. And in Durham, like I came from Durham Public School, and it was a very harsh environment. I was getting I'm sure I'm not unique. I'm sure there's harsh environments everywhere. But growing up, man, like right around middle school, high school transition, they get real, real cruel. I had some really, really special bullies that would specifically, it was like a group of them that would specifically target me like every single day and do horrible things to me. Like one time in the bus, they all held me down and they cut my hand with a knife. I got a scar on my hand from that day. They would sit behind me and they would heat up on a little notebook. They would take pens and heat them up and get them real hot and burn me in the back of my neck, like in class. When I'm over here trying to sit down and being in class. The teacher sometimes saw it, but she was actually afraid of these kids. Because these kids were like dangerous. And like I feel, and it was every single day of having, like the day that one of them was not there would be the day that I would be so thankful and happy, and I wouldn't tell anybody about it. I just kept it all inside. And it made a whole lot of problems, that I still have to this day. Some issues, that traced from there. I had no social skills. I was the kid in school that nobody wanted to get close to. Nobody wanted to associate with me for fear that they would actually get the wrath themselves, right? And it was terrible. So yeah, you could say, "Oh, I got bullied." Well, everybody got bullied. I was severely bullied, and I feel like I had a lot of PTSD. I had a lot of trauma from that. I didn't know how to socialize, and it just made for a whole lot of issues. So you know, I have, and on top of it, my family background, my mom's side of the family, there's a lot of like bipolar, there's a lot of depression, there's a lot of ADHD, ADD problems. You could ask my cousin, who Sheen is dead, Afshin, he'll tell you, right? like we all know about it, I think I definitely had some of those ADD issues that transferred to me. I had a lot of issues, when I went to college, I ended up failing out of college. I just, I couldn't stay focused. I had too many issues going on. I probably wasn't ready for college when I went into college. Um, at one point in time, I was waiting tables. My life was in the garbage. I didn't really feel like my life would really amount to anything. I got hooked on a lot of substances. I have a lot of dark stories. I was homeless at one point. I was sleeping out of my car for quite a while. My life was in shambles. There would be nights where I would just go to bed crying. Praying for a savior. Praying for something good. That's about the time. I met my wife. And I started dating her. She was the best thing. She got me to quit smoking cigarettes. I was probably smoking about a pack and a half, almost 2 packs a day. And, she got me to quit a lot of things, a lot of the toxic friends, toxic people I had in my life. She separated me from, she got me back kind of close to my family again. She was a major positive influence in my life. And so I held on to that. And I knew that this was the woman that I wanted to marry. She kind of like made a man out of me, kind of, right? and but anyways, I all my issues didn't go away. I still had a lot of shit to get through. Which taking the mushrooms helped me a lot with that stuff. Now my wife was not perfect either. She also had lots of issues. A lot of mental issues. She was abused growing up, physically. By family, and like horrible stuff, like you didn't say your multiplication tables properly. She had a broken nose. At one point. I mean, it was brutal. So some of her background and upbringing kind of created some of the issues that she had. You know, and like she had a lot of PTSD. She had a lot of rage issues. She had psychotic breakdowns. Like sometimes she could be a real scary person. Sometimes, and we had a family. We were raising kids. And it was very. Sometimes it was very difficult. She would get suicidal sometimes. You know what I mean? She'd been in a mental institution sometimes, because things, got that bad. And so we were taking antidepressants, and now just want to say that I'm not a doctor. I'm not anybody licensed to give anybody any kind of advice on what they should or shouldn't do medicinally. I just can only talk from my experiences in my own life, which could be completely different than somebody else's life. So let me just say that I like when I talk about the antidepressants, I don't want to say anything, bad that might discourage somebody and might cause issues in somebody else's life. Let me just say that right there, right? You got to make well-informed decisions about what you do or what you don't do. But in my life, with my wife, she was having therapy. She was taking antidepressants, Lexapro. She was taking all the time. It would help. It would help sometimes. It would help for a while, and then sometimes it wouldn't help. I would say that it was like 50% effective. you know um Sometimes she would feel good and she would stop taking it, and then she would have like major psychotic episodes, because like, so you take something and all of a sudden you have to keep taking it. If you decide that you don't want to take it anymore, man, your whole entire life could be ripped apart. It's crazy. But that wasn't really seeming like a great solution to the problem. um I had gotten to the point where me and my and the family, we gotten to the point where there was like no hope for us, you know. Like I love my wife like 100%. I would never want to be with anybody else, you know. Like, she's the woman, who I love, regardless of anything, regardless of anything that happens, So I was looking at the future, and the future just seemed like kind of a dark reality, because there was no answers, like we did like everything that we're supposed to, nothing working, right? Just so happened like that I was cultivating mushrooms, right? What a coincidence, right? Part of me believes that there are no real coincidences, that everything kind of seems to happen for a reason, This seemed like not a coincidence, So I was getting in, like I said, I was getting involved in Willie's server, big time. Willie throws something called Tripoween once a year, where you could go on, you could go with the TTF and go have fun on vacation. So I I had been talking with everybody in the TTF and with Willie, everything. What we're gonna do about my wife, this and that, and everything. I was desperate for an answer, desperate. And when I found out, when I found out about the medicinal benefits, life changing stuff about mushrooms, I was thinking, man, I got to figure out a way to get my wife on this. I like, but she came from a very old school mentality about weed and mushrooms and things being drugs, right? Like being like things that losers do, right? And she didn't understand, like, a lot of people, and a lot of people still don't understand about like what these medicines actually are and the role that they can play and the benefit that you can experience. So, I was getting her over to Tripoween. We had taken her off of the antidepressants so that she could have, because those antidepressants completely block the effects, right? Which sucks. It's like, man, like this is supposed to be medicine, but it's actually blocking you from the real medicine. Imagine that. But we took her off cold turkey. So we went into Tripoween, and she was having some major psychotic episodes because we had taken her off cold turkey. It might not have been the best way of doing it, honestly. But when we were there, she had her first psychedelic experience. I mean, she was like, we tried the first night, and like they she took like 2 grams of like some really strong mushrooms, and nothing happened. I mean, that this is very common, after taking antidepressants. Like, I mean, so you kind of have to like flood the system, to make it happen. The second night, she was chomping down mushrooms like candy bars, right? Like big, huge albino penis envy mushrooms, freaking ridiculously strong, like big ones. And she was like, "Gah, gah, 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 gah." She was just like eating them down. Well, guess what? She had her first psychedelic experience right there, and it was very, very intense. She had a really, really deep one, right? But when she was on it, she was like, I can feel the universe, I feel connected to everything, like everything makes sense now. I see things in a way that I never saw it before, right? Anyways, her testimony to this day is that she felt it went real deep inside her, real deep, and there was something real deep inside, like she didn't want to live anymore, right? She didn't want to be alive anymore. She didn't want to live this life. She had issues with this life, and she said that changed, that night. That shifted. She went from I don't want to live anymore to I want to live. Like I want to have a life. Like life is beautiful. Like life is amazing, right? It's like the mushrooms were able to teach her in a way that nothing else ever could, you know, about about that. And that fundamental change kind of changed everything in our family life. Now, she still had issues, right? Like after that, it's not like everything was like magically fixed that day, right? Like it's not like that, but it definitely helps gets you in the direction of fixing everything, right? It gets you started down that road, and the more you use it as a tool and understand how to use that tool, the more you can kind of like keep on building, right? And but anyways, so her whole perspective on mushroom changed after that, right? She saw the benefit, what could happen. I saw it for myself. It was a major testimony. It saved my life. Okay, because her life, my life with her was turning into it kind of like a nightmare that I could not wake up from. And it completely transitioned after that. So after I saw everything that it could do in my life and everything that it could do in our life, and see how that changed, like it even more like firmed it, like this is what I want to do with my life. I want to be like if I saw that this could happen in my life, the world doesn't seem to understand what this is. Like imagine you knowing something that the whole rest of the world doesn't understand. Like how is that even possible? Like how is it possible that me, just one human being on this planet, can can realize something that it seems like common sense. It seems like a common sense thing, but for some reason humanity is just not up to par with it, like, or doesn't seem to have understanding. As smart as we are, we can't figure out this basic thing. Like, we want to demonize it, we want to call it witchcraft. I mean, what the heck? It's insane to think that this stuff is illegal, like, but it is.
It is insane. It is definitely insane. I'm with you. Man, that is such a I never heard that story from you. That is amazing. Um I I am so sorry you went through all that stuff as a kid. Um although I will tell you this, man, the more people I really get to know, the easier it is for me to believe that everybody is going through shit. Everybody has
Oh
gone
yeah.
through shit. I don't care what you look like, how rich you are, how poor you are. I mean, definitely some people go through more shit than others, but nobody's just getting off scot free. No, nobody is without their own struggles. And it's always great and such a solace and such a comfort and such a connecting experience to hear other people talk about those things. And it was great to hear that you were talking about these fundamental issues in your life in Willie's server. I think these Discord servers, you make some real friends there. You definitely connect with people. It's really profound. Now I'll tell you though, my favorite part of this entire thing is how you were sitting there smoking a blunt with a dude one day, and he
Yeah.
just goes, "Well, you can grow these yourself, right?" And it just blew your mind.
You can imagine the look of disbelief.
Yeah, you're like, "I can grow my own drugs? I can what? Like, where did these come from?" Yeah. But that story is really important because it highlights something that I'm all about, that I hear a lot of people talk about. I'll get these 60, 70-year-old people in my server, and they start to talk to me, and they want to try this stuff. They're ready. Maybe they did it when they were kids, and they've been watching some documentaries, they've read some books, and they're ready to revisit it. And the fundamental issue is they can't get it, so they got to grow it. And I'm over here at the MycoGeeky podcast going, exactly. You gotta grow it. It's all good though. Let's figure out the right way for you to grow it. And if you're like Zerk, and if you're like me, there are some people who I think are called to grow mushrooms. There is some spiritual experience. There's something cathartic. There's something it does for some of us that is very important. And so you're saying something that I've heard many people over the years in my server say, which is, Man, in the beginning, it was about the mushrooms. In the beginning, it was about the medicine. And now it's about the cultivation. The cultivation is keeping me. The mushrooms woke me up. The mushrooms gave me some epiphanal experiences, changed the way I saw everything. Super important. But the day-to-day life is most dramatically impacted now by my cultivation practice. So I love hearing those stories. There are so many of us out there, and I'm inclined to be a little bit dramatic and just really feel like those of us who are called to grow mushrooms and share them with our friends and our families and be ambassadors and spokespeople, we are doing, to use a phrase that I don't use very often, we're doing the Lord's work. We're doing the work of the universe, of the cosmos, and it is so important to be doing.
I'm telling you, that's a very lonely path to walk, my friend. I'm sure you can understand. So when nobody else understands, doing something, um, but yeah, so having had that story, that impact in my life, seeing how it could change fundamentally, everything, I realized, man, like so many people out there are with problems, so many people out there are struggling. So many people are desperate, like I was. Like a lot of people don't know what it feels like to be desperate like that, to to just to just be like, what do you call, like you're like shooting in the dark or something, trying to hit something because you're desperate, like that level of desperation is intense. And me knowing that, this could be a tool that could help folks who are desperate, that could cause healing in people's lives, as they say, and when I say healing, I mean, like, alleviating symptoms of ADD, ADHD, fears, anxieties, mental issues, um, people's focus, people's trauma, how they handle their trauma, um, you know, fixing relationships, bringing family back together again. I figure it's not happening in the gas station. I wanted to devote my whole entire life to try to help bringing about these changes in other people's lives and giving people an answer, and realizing that you know I'm just playing a small part in that story, small role, and that's fine. I'm very happy in the role that I play. I'm not trying to be like the savior, like I am gonna save the world or something. That's crazy, like, but realistically, the hardest thing to acquiring this medicine is cultivating it and growing it. And there's a lot of people who are afraid to do it or intimidated, to do it, because you hear all the time about contamination and having failure and how hard it is and everything. And you know, I'm here to say it's not that hard. It doesn't have to be that hard. And I like to provide people with simple ways of getting there. That aren't too complicated. That aren't required like so much fancy equipment for, right? So that's where I am, like the role of a teacher. Because I've learned X amount up until this point, right? And I didn't invent the knowledge, not by any means, but to kind of fulfill a role of passing on the knowledge to as many people as possible. That's the fulfillment. That's the meaning that I would like my life to have. And so, I would say the reason why I I feel like I have acquired the knowledge that I have at this point is because I've had so much failure myself. I made like every single mistake in the book, that you could possibly imagine, right? I actually um, I actually feel like my failure is the reason, why I know what I know, because I'm not just happy following like a standard way of doing things because that's the prescribed way of doing it, but finding out why are we doing it like that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the truth is all these texts, right? They're great, but it's the equivalent of being given the answer key before you take your ACT. You might get a 36, but you were handed the answers, so you don't actually know anything. You got the result you wanted, which is you got a great score. But yeah, all the learning happens from fucking up.
Yeah, and and sometimes you find out that the stuff that's supposed to not work actually does work, you know, and the stuff that's supposed to work actually doesn't work, like so you find out all that too, and you get very things can get really controversial and heated sometimes because of that. but but it's through failure now, and as a cultivator, you start here, and it leads you in this direction, and as you go in that direction, you hit walls, right? You hit walls that threaten to make you stop in your tracks completely and give up on everything because you're so frustrated because you don't know why it's happening. You're like, I did everything right. I used ISO, I wore gloves, my grains were perfect, my substrate was perfect, everything was perfect, and this is what happened, fuck this, man. I ain't doing this no more, like this, you get frustrated because you can't figure out why something what happened, right? It's the not knowing, I think, is like one of the most frustrating aspects of this game here. Not being able to, not knowing like why something is happening, right? So I hit many of those walls because I always, like, I had my first grow, like I had like great success with my first grow of Golden Teacher, but after that it was 6 months of straight failure. Like I got real cocky like after the first grow. Oh, I know how to do this, right? And next thing you know, everything was screwing up. I couldn't seem to get anything to work right, and it was kind of devastating. um I remember starting off agar dishes, right? When I first learned how to do agar, right? I took like one spore print, and I took like I took like one little bit of spores, and I grew it out, and I was trying to like find all the sectors and stuff, and next thing you know, I had this group of agar dishes for this sector, this one for this sector. I don't know what I was doing. I didn't even know what I was doing. Like I remember I started off with like I had a plan, and then I was trying to achieve monocultures with each and every sector or something. Next thing you know, I had like 50, 60 agar dishes. I couldn't even remember what was what anymore. I'm like, what is it? Like, I'm lost. Like, what do I do with all these dishes? I was like asking Willie. I'm like, Willie, I got all these dishes, man. Am I doing this right? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? Willie just like shaking his head, like, oh, like, but anyways, every time something went wrong, I would not rest until I could figure out what that was and why that happened. Right? That's how my mind is. I have a really special mind. I'm real stubborn, real stubborn about things. I do not give up, man. If something is wrong, is happening. No, we're gonna find this out. I'm gonna redo it again until I figure it out. So every single time I would figure it out, and I could keep moving forward, right? And I think that's one thing that makes me, now I'm having like so much success as a cultivator is because of all those failures, right? So starting Brown Treasure was no different, you know. um, so yeah, I made the leap, started Brown Treasure, sold my gas station, sold my home. We moved to Puerto Rico. I moved my family. We took some very bold steps. And I had a lot of debt that I had acquired over the years. So all the proceeds from the gas station went towards paying off like old debts. I actually went all in on Brown Treasure, like completely. Um, Willie was instrumental in setting up the company. Uh, he Willie just became a really good friend of mine, helping me out. He gave me a blend. It's called Willie's Blend, right? It's his signature mix of ingredients at the right ratios, that make my manure sub, what it is. Um, so he taught me Willie's blend. He was in person in Puerto Rico. We were setting it all up together, setting up the tanks, the canopy, he showing me like, this is how you do this is how you do that. Willie is an amazing individual with so much knowledge, to share. Like he's up there. But so he gave me this amazing blend. He gave me everything, So we set up the company. I basically went all in at that point. Had no more money left, and we started Brown Treasure. You know, yeah. Me starting Brown Treasure, thinking that I was an expert cultivator. At that time. When actually I had a long way to go actually. And I'm not like at this point in time, I will not say that I'm an expert cultivator. Like I think that's a ridiculous thing to say. I think there's so much about this that is still left to uncover. Like you could be doing this for many years, and you realize that this thing is so much bigger than you could possibly understand. Like you'll never understand it fully. There's always things to learn. I'm still learning, like now. But anyways, we started Brown Treasure, and I feel like I made every single mistake in the book, in a grain and substrate company. you know
I'm sure you are not the only one, and I have anecdotal stories to back that statement up. Yeah, I think that's normal. But and one of the reasons is because it's a different thing growing mushrooms for yourself in your basement than growing mushrooms. Like my neighbor, he has orders to fulfill every month, and so a lot of planning has to go in to make sure he's got 100 pounds of this mushroom and 50 pounds of that mushroom. And guess what? You got to plan for mistakes, errors, overages, underages, all that stuff. And so the commercial aspect of things is very different, right? Make a sterilizer for yourself is different than making a product that you make readily available for everybody. So many more concerns and risks and challenges to run a real business. Now, but you ran a business, so you at least knew running a business is a
yeah,
lot of work. You at least knew that. So
yeah,
that was
100%.
great.
Yeah, I mean, it was great, very scary, very scary at times, especially when things were happening that I couldn't really seem to figure out why it was happening. Having a lot of contamination issues, and with both the grains and the substrate, it was extremely challenging. But you know, I I tweaked things. I kept tweaking things. I kept testing things and getting it dialed. Moisture content of substrate. Hydrating properly. Pasteurization technique. How you sterilize it. Um, a lot of what is prescribed out there, it just simply isn't true. Like it's just, if you cook, like, I don't want to get too controversial. I don't want to say things that's going to cause too much controversy, but if you pressure cook grains for like 90 minutes, you know, like it's not gonna you're not gonna have 100% success rate. Just will not happen.
Yeah.
At 90 minutes is just not long enough. I mean, that's my
But
personal opinion.
I remember that being the number everybody talked about in the
You look
beginning.
up on YouTube,
Yeah.
and 90 minutes everywhere you look.
Yep. And then I went up to 2 hours, and then that wasn't enough. I went up to 2.5. Now I'm at 3, and my shit's sterilized for sure, 100%.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's a
You
long
can't put
time to cook.
Yeah, and you got to know how to pressure cook. Because if you just put like a little bit of water in the pressure cooker, you're not going to make it to 3 hours. You know, you got to figure out how to get more water in there. Um, and the same is true for substrate. I don't want to get too much into nitty gritty details about everything. I don't want to make too many people mad by by saying things that they don't agree with. But anyhow, one huge thing that happened, right, with the substrate was I figured out it was a faulty thermometer.
Wow. Yeah.
Like that one, and like that's one of those things that you would never figure it out. You know, you're like I'm doing it perfect. You know, like fuck, it's excuse my language, but it's the same. I'm putting it for enough time. It's getting to the right temperature. It's this shouldn't be happening. And then I was like, well, maybe it's this. And I like took another thermometer and I stuck it in another bag and I looked and it's like a 40 degree difference between the two. Like I thought I was getting to the right temperature, but I was 40 degrees too low. And that was what it was. So there's that moment. Dang, this is it. This is what happened, right? So anyways, there's been so many moments like that, and just eventually you get to the point where you can kind of pull it off every single time, without fail. So yeah, tons of failures is what got me to the point that I'm at right now.
Well, I can tell you this, you got it all figured out because everything I have ever gotten from you is absolutely flawless, perfect. I've never had anything contaminate. All my grows look phenomenal. Like you have an absolutely top-notch product. So all that hard work was not for nothing, man. You got there.
Well, I certainly appreciate that. Thank you very much. I never stopped cultivating. All right. Like I'm constantly testing, internally testing our products, constantly doing grows. The wheel never stops turning. You know, there's just so much like each strain is like a new adventure, like getting to learn it, see what it looks like, see what learning all about it. To me, it's like all about learning, and it's just I never get bored or tired of it. So, but I'm always like testing like almost every single batch, that happens right now. It gets tested like every single batch of grains gets inoculated. Um, you know, so if anything is not as it should be, I will know like relatively quickly. Haven't really had any issues for quite a while now, I'll say. Everything pops off like it should pretty much. I pretty much got it like very very well dialed at this point in time.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you this. I made over 900 of these little sterilizers that I make, and not a single frickin' one of them has ever shown up defective. I've had one go lost off a porch. I've had to repair 3, and I'm pretty sure it's because they were using it wrong, but I mean, I'm a nice guy, so I just fix it for free. But that's because I, with tender love and care, work on each one of these sterilizers. It doesn't go out unless it's perfect. I know you're the exact same way. I know how you work. It's not all big automated machines and this and that. You are, very sort of old school methodology. You got your hands in there. The way you prep your sub and your grain kind of reminds me of my buddy Mushman 9000, who's very much like a intuition and really knows the feel and the this and the that. And that just comes from you cultivating for so long and caring and wanting to get it right and do a good job. And I'm telling you, dude, you're doing a phenomenal job. Everybody that's looking for Poo Sub, you're the first name out of my mouth.
There's a lot of great benefits, and speaking of like poo, right? There's a lot of great benefits in being over here in Puerto Rico, right? The reason why Brown Treasure works so well in Puerto Rico um, is not just by chance, Over here, it's the land of eternal summer. You know, like right now it's like snowing over there in the US. You know, people are cold out there, but I don't even remember what cold feels like. You know, like I kind of miss it, honestly. You know, like I go outside for 5 minutes and I'm like pouring sweat, you know, like right now today, like that same thing happened, you know, like I just went outside to go, you know, bring some pots and stuff inside, and next thing you know, I had to change my shirt and stuff. You know, it's like so hot out there. But anyway, it's constantly sun over here all 12 months, right? There's no winter to have to deal with, so there's frequent rains. You know, so getting that manure aged properly, it's all about the cycle of sun and rain. You know, Mother Nature having its way with the manure, right? So I like another aspect about me. It's not just about learning from my failures, but I want to make sure that everything is to the highest possible standard. No cutting corners. You know, if it takes a little bit more effort or it's a little bit harder doing it a better way, let's do it that way instead. You know, let's not do it. And I don't want to get controversial about things. You know, we do soak and simmer, right? Like you said, I'm old school. You know, I'll soak it the night before, and well, you know, back to the manure. I kind of go all over the place, but back to the manure. Let's stay there. Let's stay there. So it's also what the animals eat. That is what your manure consists of, right? So, you know, if animals are eating a lot of cheap feed and stuff like that, you know, they're injected with hormones or steroids or you know, where you get it from, right, is important, right? So I have a 27-acre piece of land in San German. You know, we have a lot of free roaming animals, free roaming horses, right? And so that field collect way, you know, is like the best way, you know, in my opinion, you know, because you know, and I've done it like different ways. You know, I've gotten stuff from different sources throughout time. You know, but I kind of like get to what the best way is, in my opinion, right? And the best way that I found is from horse manure, right? That's been field collected, not one that's from a stable that's mixed in with tons of hay and wood chips. You know, those wood chips are antifungal wood chips. It's what they throw in there to keep the smell down, you know, but it's not necessarily good for cultivation. I prefer to use like pure manure, nothing else in it, right? That's been aged for a long time, you know. So all the manure that we have, and we have big old piles of manure, like mountain of manure, like on the property. I probably have enough manure to last me for a couple of years, you know, and I'm continually like adding to it, right? But everything that we're using is at least 2 years old. All right, like it doesn't look like manure anymore. It doesn't look like poop. It doesn't smell like poop. If you were to pick it up and smell it, it would be like dirt. And that's what a lot of people have an issue with is the idea of poop. I don't want to, you know, touch poop. I don't want to be near poop. I don't want to get my hands there. There's a natural aversion to poop. I mean, you know, it should be like you shouldn't. You know, it's something that it's not attractive to you. The idea of poop, right? But the mushrooms do love it, right? I mean, you have to adapt to the mushrooms, right? You shouldn't try to make the mushrooms adapt to you, right? You have to adapt to what they like, right? So, anyways, so with our manure, um, it's all the animals eat is the vegetation of Puerto Rico, you know, which is lush, vibrant, very deep colors. Like if you come over here and you look around, it's like part of what makes it like a tropical paradise is seeing all that lush, vibrant foliage everywhere, right? And on my property, it grows like crazy. The soil is like super nutritious out here. You can't get like people like when I had my house in North Carolina, I'd have trouble with like keeping my grass alive, right? Like during the summer and stuff, it would be dying and stuff. There's no grass dying issue out here, right? Like Like it's actually like grows like so quick. You got to like frequently have your grass cut because the soil is just so dang nutritious over here, right? So, that's all that our animals eat. That's all that's in the manure that we use. Just broken down plant material that's been aged for over 2 years.
And now hold on. I remember you the last time you were on, you were telling me also like so you got to create a big pile of poop, but then you turn it over from time to time as well, right? So you don't it's not even just sitting there for 2 years. You do a little bit of poop pile management, right?
You mix it around, you kind of like scoop it, and you kind of like turn it over and stuff. You kind of like, yeah, you move it around. That helps that process because it's the bacteria that do the work, right? Those microbes, is what kind of processes it and turns it into that final product, right? So we're constantly doing, it's a lot of work, right? You can imagine. And I don't have any help. Okay, like I'm a one-man show out here, right? So it's like it feels like it's more than I could possibly take on, but somehow I do it. But anyways, so we have this manure that's aged, right? And I also I ran a wood chipper for a long time, but I have issues with the wood chipper. And the issue that I have with the wood chipper is that everything that you put in there comes out the other end, and it's in your powderized manure, right? So like that's like rocks, sticks, like whatever else, it just all goes to the wood chipper and pulverized, and that's what's in your mix. And so it's not actually pure. So I I probably several, I can't remember when, but several months ago I went away from the wood chipper, right? As I'm gonna just do this a different way, right? So I have like a drill with drill attachments that we use to pulverize it, right? And then I put that through a sifter, right? Like it's a really cool sifter that goes into the bucket, and you sift it around, and it removes everything that shouldn't be in there. It removes all the plant material, all the sticks, and little rocks and stuff. And you'd be surprised how much sticks and rocks and stuff are in there.
I can tell you this because I've gotten a lot. I've played with a lot of people's poo sub, and yours is hands down the cleanest. It is obviously you're neurotically devising ways to purify. Yeah, it's exceptional.
It's just like it's like powder, right? It's like a high quality powder, consistent, like it looks the same, it smells, it doesn't have any smells, right? So, which doesn't mean that it doesn't have beneficial microbes in it, because it still has a microbial profile in it, right? But it's not like if you would be using fresh manure, like or something that was just recently fresh, like then you're gonna have like a whole lot more smell issues, um, and it can actually go against you in the grow as well. But and also having that right ratio in the substrate. Manure is great, but guess what? You can have too much of it in there. That you will not have great results when you put too much manure in there. It's got to be at the right percentage. You know, so yeah, our manure is definitely a great standout feature of our substrate. But it's also having those ratios dialed in properly, right? And it's also about the moisture content. I mean, it's about everything, but it's about the all the stuff. But moisture content is very important in having substrate that's going to perform well, as well as how you pasteurize it. The pasteurization, is what's going to solve contamination issues. Um, One thing that I've learned with all the experience that I had is that contamination issues have nothing to do with the ingredients that you put in a substrate. Zero. Okay, it's not about, I don't want to use manure sub because it has a higher chance of contaminating, right? No, it's not. It's not the manure that's causing your contamination. It's how you're pasteurizing it, right? it's everything to do with the pasteurization of it. Like you have to get it to the right temperature for enough time to ensure that you're not going to have those issues.
And
So
you got to get every part of it. So
yeah,
every little pocket. Yes.
the internal temperature of it has got to reach that temperature for X amount of time. And I tell people what temperature I get mine to and for how long. And I've had people criticize me about it. Oh, you can't do that. You're gonna cause blah blah blah, and they start talking about all this theory and science and all this stuff, and it's like there's theory and science, and then there's what actually works. All right, like I do this for a living, like every single day. All I do every single day is grains and substrate and testing it and seeing what works and what doesn't work. So I I don't even really get into it really a whole lot, because
There's no reason to argue with those people anyway, because they just want to argue with you. I've tried your Willie's blend and I've tried your Island mix. Yeah, for me personally, I love the Willie's blend just because I've used CVG. Your CVG blend is absolutely solid. But I'm like, if I'm gonna get some of that good from Zerk down in Puerto Rico, I'm gonna get me some of that manure. So yeah, that's really my favorite. And for everybody, you bring up a good point about the smell. So there is almost imperceptible. Like if you smelled regular bag of CVG and a Willie's blend, you can tell there's manure in it. It is not an off-putting smell. It is very neutral. It's just a little more a bit of a pungent where you can just tell that there's some poo in there, but it is not stinky at all. I love using it. It is not a problem at all in the 10 in the bags. It's a joy.
now that being said, I will say something about what you just said. And that is, yeah, when you get it and stuff, it's not that smelly, right? I mean, there is an earthy aroma to it. It definitely has somewhat of a pungent, earthy aroma, but it's not like a rotting corpse smell, or it's not like too sulfur or like so bad. But what it is now what causes smells is bacteria, right? So there is a live microbial profile in there. That's why we pasteurize it and we don't sterilize it, right? But what will happen? So when we send you our product, and I just want to just let this be known that our product is made for immediate use. So if you're not going to use it for over a week, then I would advise in keeping it in the fridge or the freezer. The freezer will prolong its shelf life like a long time, like I don't know how long, like a long, long time. But and putting it in the fridge will definitely give you a couple of months, for sure. But if you just leave it sitting around at room temperature, well, those bacteria is going to multiply in that bag, right? And you're going to see little white stuff start growing here and there, which is just the microbes. Like if you see a little bit of white growing here and there, it's not really an issue. I mean, you can still do the grow and you can still be fine, right? But I always tell people, let your nose be your guide. If you smell it and it's just like, oh, no way, right? Yeah, then no way. Like don't do it. Don't do it. You've let it sit out for too long. The microbes have overrun the bag, and they're just cranking out gases, and it's probably gonna have an impact on your grow, like negatively, right? So, you know, just wanted to be clear. When I send it to you, it's not gonna have that bad smell and everything. But if you do not store it properly, then you can run into issues with it.
Well, shit, man, I'm always ready to use it when I get it, so that's not an issue. But yes, that is I. Now that I think about it, I did have one bag I didn't use, and so I remember you telling me that, so I just tossed it in the fridge and found a use for it about a month later, so it all worked out. But yeah, yeah, that's the benefit. I mean, so to piggyback on that idea, I use Dr. Mike's MPG Plus. And I recently had, just for fun, so I always mix a new batch because the idea is I don't want the microbes to get a head start. I want the fungus and the mushrooms, the mycelium, and the bacteria to kind of proliferate together. And everything works out great. So all the benefits of Willie's blend, I see some similar benefits. It's more contam resistant because you have these beneficial bacteria, all that kind of stuff. But I had a bottle that I didn't throw out, and I had just 2 bags I was trying to run. So I was like, oh, this will be a fun test. I'm gonna run 2-week old, or maybe it wasn't 2 weeks, but it was at least a week old. So the bacteria, even though they were in the fridge in a bottle, they were still proliferating in that solution of water. But I wanted to see like how much of a difference that would make. And sure enough, I got some fruit, but it was obvious that the bacteria had a huge head start. So, yes, for anybody watching who is pasteurizing instead of sterilizing for the purpose of maintaining those beneficial bacteria, however you're doing it, whether it's through a poo sub or it's through using some other product, you need to have a fresh start. So, like Zerk saying, if you buy a bag of Willie's blend, use it right away or store it properly because you don't want time to elapse where all that bacteria is proliferating and it's going to have a negative. There's already going to be a bunch of microbial activity. It's going to generate heat. It's going to already be, playing some games before you even try to inoculate it. So you definitely don't want to do that.
Yeah. Now that being said, like let's say, I mean, this would obviously take you having to have some know-how, but let's say that you had like manure substrate that was like stinking like crazy and completely overrun by microbes and all this kind of stuff, right? It's not. It's like if one were so inclined, right? You could save it, right? Like all you need to do is break it up, spread it out thin, put it out in the sun. You guys probably couldn't do that right now because it's winter over there. It's impossible right now, but like, when it's actually warm outside or something, or if you have a way of doing it, you just completely dry it out. All right. And those bacteria, they're not gonna live, they're gonna die out. And then once it's completely dry, and I mean like dry, 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 right? Once it's super dry, then you smell that same stuff that was like supposed like smelly before. All of a sudden, it's not smelly anymore. You know, and you can actually repasteurize it, rehydrate it, repasteurize it again, and it'll work fine. Imagine the manure. Everything you can imagine is inside of there before we pasteurize it. There's like little worms. There might be like a couple of, I mean, it might be a couple bugs that got in there. It's like all kinds of bacteria, all kinds of contaminant, like you name it, it's in there. The worst contaminants that you can imagine are all in there. But we pasteurize it and then they become a non-issue. So it is still salvageable if that were to happen. But like I said, you would need a little bit of know-how to be able to fix that.
Man, I'm gonna tell you right now, if that happened to me, I would probably just sterilize the bag. I would just, go, okay, cool. I'm gonna forfeit because I don't, especially in the dead of winter. I'm probably not gonna hang on to that block. I'm just not gonna be stupid and order some poo sub from you and not use it. I'm just gonna use it right away and not have to worry about it for sure. Yeah. Yeah. All right, man. So talk to me a little bit. You've brought up Willie. I think we sort of lightly mentioned that your interest in joining the Trip Team family and all that. We've definitely talked a little bit more about it today. Um, Tell me a little bit about what you got out of being a part of Willie Myco's server. I mean, obviously, you got a business partner, you got a friend, but like more broadly, talk about the bigger picture about what it's like being in that server. I love exposing people who are not yet hip to Discord about what benefits they can
Right.
enjoy on Discord.
Oh man, you learn so much more by getting into one of server like that. Like the TTF server is great. It's still around, and it's got plenty. It's got people in there just waiting to teach somebody. Like it's like when somebody like is new in there, it's exciting. All right, and just just in no time, like it's like they get like you just see them like progressing and developing and stuff like that. I've had a lot of people who are first time Brown Treasure customers, just getting Brown Treasure products for the first time. They find their way into the TTF. Then next thing you know, they're doing agar, they're doing liquid culture, they're doing all the cool advanced stuff. It's amazing to see like the journey that people get on, and the people are so nice. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who aren't nice, but I mean, you're not going to be in a group of people anywhere without eventually encountering somebody who's not as nice. But I'm saying like the nice people definitely outweigh everybody else, and it's one thing that I love about this community is to me, and I'm just being 100% honest when I say this, like people who grow mushrooms are some of the coolest people in the world. All right, that's how I feel. They are freaking so quirky and cool and different, and like when I went to Costa Rica, I met with Willie's Triple Ween that one time, and I met them in person. They're just so awesome, man. They're so amazing, like humble people, nice, kind. I mean, the kind of people that I just can't say enough. They're just really cool people. Having that sense of community, with having that group of people that got your back. Once you're in there and once you're talking to people, then you're part of that community. I can 100% say that I'm a TTF member, and I have like so many people in that server who's got my back, who know who I am, who support me, who love me, and I love them too. It's great. There's a lot of love and a lot of mutual respect in there, and that's why people are in there, because that's what they're looking for. Because you don't find that in the outside world over here. It's hard to find people who are into what you're doing, especially if you're growing mushrooms. You know, chances are everybody's going to be tired of hearing about it. That's usually what it is. Your family members, yeah, dad, mushrooms, yeah, sure. Like,
Right.
can we talk about something else now? It's
Yeah.
like, no, I'm sorry, that's all I know how to talk about.
That's all I can talk about. Yes.
But once you get into it with them, they're all the same way, like, and so I think it's great as a mushroom cultivator to find a community like that, because you can feel extremely isolated, in your real life, having a passion like this.
Yep.
Like I said, it's a lonely road.
Yeah.
You know.
Man, I remember when I first started doing the podcast, I would talk about like we're all like these little lonely islands. We're just like, random people in our basements or in our closets growing mushrooms. And so that was really like a major impetus for bringing on so many different people, hearing so many different stories, hearing different ways to skin the same cat. Because it's important. And it really, really these days, you know, Facebook is pretty much not the place anymore to form that community. Reddit is a little hit or miss, but Reddit is still alive and kicking. But man, I'm 100% believer that Discord is a really fantastic place to safely talk about cultivating these mushrooms. So yeah, man, I think it's wonderful.
I had been wanting to do it for a while actually, but I'm not a very savvy person about like websites and chat groups and assigning roles and creating. I it just don't really knew how to do it, so it got kind of put on the back burner for a while. But I had kind of like a vision for a while on what I wanted to do, and that vision just over time became more and more important to me, and so I just overcame. I said screw it. I created it, right. I created the Brown Treasure Discord server, and you know you got to ask, like, what is the purpose of it, right? Like what is the reason for the Brown Treasure Discord server? Is it just to promote Brown Treasure products? Is it just to try to like grow my business and make money or something like that? But it's not like that's not the point of it, right? The point of it is is that I I I want to have a way to to create a space similar to the TTF where you can have people can find community. People can find like-minded people, who are kind, who don't say harsh things, don't say mean and harsh words to each other. Everybody like maintains like a mutual respect for one another, and people can learn how to grow mushrooms. That's the thing. Like my role as a teacher, right? Because I've kind of like discovered that role as time has gone by through in Brown Treasure, because a lot majority of the people who come as new customers are people who are just growing for the first time and don't know you know anything. Don't I mean not that they don't know anything, but I mean, like, you know what I mean. They don't know the basics. They don't know about agar. They don't know who this is. They don't know who that is. They're just people who are just on Google, like clicking and trying to figure it out, like I was when I first started, right? And just to kind of like further my agenda of teaching as many people as possible how to grow mushrooms. So that's like the main motivation that I started this server. But it's not just that as either, because there's things that I wanted to do, that I thought would be interesting, and fascinating, right? And one thing, I don't know if you've gathered from what I talked to you about, but there's something called FAFO, right?
Oh, bro, we
And
talk about FAFO all day here.
fuck
Yes.
around and find out,
Oh, yes.
right? So I've I've been, before I even knew what FAFO stood for. Like, I've been all about FAFO since the very beginning. Finding out what works and what doesn't. I mean, you just try it and then you find out, and then you figure it out. And then but guess what happens? You learn something new, right? So the kind of like this one of the themes in the Brown Treasure Discord server is the FAFO, right? FAFO is encouraged, not discouraged, right? Because too many times I see people say, "Hey, I want to try it like this," and like 10 people jump on them. No, 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 you can't do it like that. You got to do it like that. Well, you're not going to hear that from me in the Brown Treasure server. Yeah, I'm going to say, go ahead and do it. And if it's something that I've already done and I see that it doesn't work, I'll say, well, this was my experience with it, but I encourage you to go ahead and try it and see for yourself, because
That's the right attitude to have anyway, because they're gonna frickin' do it anyway. That's why I
yeah.
don't even discourage people. Oh, you want to? I just had somebody tell me, um, they were gonna take a microdose capsule and just pour it out onto a petri dish to try to get it to grow. And I was like, cool, go for it. I didn't. I said I am slightly skeptical, and by slightly I mean utterly. But why not? Who cares? It's just it's a microdose capsule in a petri dish, and you get to give it a try. And guess what? Something fun to do. It's gotta, this is part of the keeping it fun. It's gonna be fun to explore and try things and have hey, I wonder if this'll work. And this is part of the joy in the journey. The joy isn't just getting the secret recipe and doing everything the way somebody tells you to do. That is not the funnest part of it.
Also, so there's this experimentation that we encourage in the server, right? But one thing that I felt like was missing in a lot of places that I've been, is the aspect of group activities, right? Like, let's all do something together, right? That creates a feeling of excitement, right? Like something is happening in there, something is going on in there, right? Now it requires me to be organized and to actually execute and follow through on the things that I say and things that I want to do. But I've had some like cool visions and cool ideas And so I just kind of like threw it out there to see how everybody would respond. Now Brown Treasure Discord server is just something that just recently came on the scene here. It's just just I want to say like weeks, or maybe like some maybe like 2 months, maybe 2 months. Like we've been around for maybe 2 months, month and a half, something like that. I'm not really sure, but I got two channels on there. I got Group Grow and I got Group FAFO on there, right? Now the Group FAFO we're going to get to, right? But I decided to start with the Group Grow, right? Now, Group Grow is not something that's new. I mean, you've done a Group Grow before, and other channels that I've been part of have also done group grows. I'm not saying that like I invented it or anything, but to me, it's something we're always going to be doing in there. It's something that will never stop happening. So my idea is like right now we got a group grow. We got the first one that we ever did. I wasn't even sure if people would want to do it or not. But I was like, guys, we need at least 10 participants, to make this happen, right? The purpose of this group grow is not for me to make any kind of profit at all. I like each member will just only have to pay what the cost is for me, right? So which is $10, right? That covers the packaging, the syringe, the shipping. That's it. Like it's like $10 is what it costs me. So everybody who wants to participate will have to pay $10. I send them an invoice for it, and they pay it, right? And we will focus on a specific genetic every single time. So the first one, I decided to do one that I've never done before, because I also want to learn about it. It's the strain called Ego Demon, from Willie Myco, right? Which is a cross of E4K, which is also from Willie Myco, and Tai Yak, which is also from Willie Myco. So it's a cross of Tai Yak and E4K, and there we have Ego Demon. I have it on agar. It's extremely aggressive, extremely ropey, looks great. And Willie said it was great. I never grew it before. But I said, hey guys, we're going to do Ego Demon. We're going to learn everything we can about Ego Demon, right? And so what I'm saying is you don't have to use Brown Treasure products when you're doing this grow. You can use whatever you use. The only thing that you have to use is the liquid culture syringe that I sent you, right? So like we're all going to inoculate on the same day on whatever way that you want to do it, be it bag or tub or this grain or that substrate or from this company or that. It doesn't matter to me, right? Because the point is that we're going to compile all the data from this. Okay, like all the pictures are going to be saved, right? All the information, like I'm sending everybody. I haven't like I haven't revealed everything to everybody, right? But everybody's going to get a worksheet, right? Where we're gonna, it's gonna have information on there like, how much of the syringe did you inject in there? Like how much grains did you use? Like what kind of grain did you use? Like what kind of substrate? Like this, that, when did you break and shake? Like when, all the nitty gritty details, and if people, for example, I just got a text as I'm talking to you right now from a member saying, "Hey, by the way, here's my email if you didn't have it for the worksheet." Somebody literally just sent that to me just right now. But it's going to have all that info on there and with no pressure. Like if you don't want to do the worksheet, you don't have to.
Don't worry, Zerk. If they don't want to do it, they're not going to do it. You don't even got to give them permission. They won't. People will happily let you down all the time. Don't you worry. But that's cool to do that because I've never done that. I've never, at the end of a grow along, compiled all the pictures. Or I mean, we talked about doing something like that before, and I just never did it because I don't have the time to do it. But
Requires a lot of effort and organizing and stuff, right? But I have found that this Discord server is starting to become a passion of mine as well, right? And I want to compile all that data and keep track of it, right? and create a database of information for different strains throughout time. So as soon as Ego Demon stops, and everybody shares their pictures, we get all the data, all that's fine. We're immediately going to roll into the next one, and so on and so forth. And the vision is to have like a really cool, big, huge database that I've created that has all this information that maybe can find some use someday to somebody. So that's the kind of idea on there. Like the idea of the group FAFO is for us to experiment with different things, like for example, like what would be a good, like let's say something simple, like putting a casing on versus not putting a casing on. Some people claim that, hey, like I grow cubensis and I have much better results when I put on a casing, right? And then some people say I don't use a casing and I have great results too. Like you don't need a casing, right? Well, let's have group A and group B. Let's eliminate all the variables, right? Let's say we're all going to do it the same exact way with the same grains and the same substrate in the same way. The only difference is going to be casing versus no casing, and that's now I don't expect that to be like an experiment that can actually say definitively this, right? But what we're looking for is correlations.
Yeah, so the great thing about that is everybody does these one-off experiments. I had this buddy, I'm not going to say who it was, but this guy back in the day, I don't see him so much in the server anymore, but he was around for quite a while, and he did these one-off, one tub would it all be the same but one variable. And he'd get a result with one strain and say, well, there you go, casing is better or casing's not better. And I would always be like, really, you've given us maybe an inkling towards something that we could investigate further. But what I like about what you're talking about is if you can successfully get everybody to control all the growing, I mean, this is a challenge though. You got to get them to have the same ambient room conditions. You got to have monitor all the stuff. But if you can approximate something like that with one variable, you'd have a more robust data set that would be more useful.
Right. Which would not be
For sure.
conclusive. It would not be conclusive.
Still, no, but it would be more interesting. It would be more compelling. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's cool because at the end of the day, right, it's all a hard science, but it's also not a hard science. It's frickin' mushrooms growing in dirt. It's not it's really hard to control for literally every variable. This is not doing a chemistry titration, right? This is less precise.
Exactly. But you know what the main point in doing all that is? These group grows and group FAFOs and all that. You know what's happening? Learning is happening. You learn something new about a new strain, or you learn something new about trying something you never might not have tried before otherwise. Like that. That's the whole point. I want to learn more, and I want people to learn too. So that's the whole point.
That's great. Cool, man. Well, that's exciting. I did see a lot of traction on that, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. Let's do this. I know you wanted to talk about and kind of do a little show and tell on some of your products, so let's see them.
This is Willie's blend right here. This is our 5 pound bag. Each of these bags is hand pressed by me. I don't have a fancy machine doing it. Like pretty much everything I do is by hand. Like when I'm mixing the substrate, I'm hydrating the substrate. I got a tub and I got my arms, and that's the mix. That's my mixer, right? My arms. And anyways, this is our 5 pound bag of our manure based substrate, and it is well hydrated. And I have the island. This is a 4 pound bag of CBG here. This is our casing mix as well. Now, here's our grains. The bag is just a little bit foggy right now, but I don't know if you can see it too well. But what the way that I say that, or the way I've learned that it should be is the kernel should be nice and plump. You shouldn't see like too many like split or broken kernels in there, and you should also not see excess liquid pooling up in the bottom of the bag. So it's one of those things that you got to hold your chin right to really get this hydration down. It's a very, very small window, getting it right, and it's definitely been the most challenging aspect of this business. Period, is getting the hydration right in these grains and understanding what's too wet and what's too dry, and as well as sterilization times, etc. Grains is the most difficult thing in cultivating, for sure, in my opinion. But these grains are right.
Yeah, that they look great. I think when I got some of your substrate, you sent me a couple bags and I ran them and they were flawless. They were, yep. They visual inspection was that they were perfectly hydrated, no excess moisture, and everything ripped.
So here's an example of a fully colonized bag.
Yep,
Um,
that's textbook, dude. that's that's a blizzard in a bag, which is what I like to
yep.
see.
So I make the whenever I do grows, like I make 5 pound bags, right? And what I do is I take one of these 1 pound bags and I do grain to grain to a 4 pound bag, and you'll see that 5 pound bag fully colonized in like 10 days. So that's one cool thing. And guess who taught me that? Willie Myco.
Oh yeah. Yeah, man, that's I'm telling you, every bulk grower, every commercial farm I know, uh you don't have to get even 15 minutes in a conversation and they're definitely going to start talking grain to grain. Grain to grain is what's up. Yeah. If you inoculated a 5 pound bag of grain with liquid culture, it's going to be a hot mother effing minute. If you grain to grain it, it's pretty fast.
It's super challenging to get a five
Yeah.
pound bag
Yes.
from a liquid culture.
100%.
You have to be real advanced to know how to do that.
Yes, I agree.
So, um, got this is our all-in-one bag,
Oh,
right?
you do have it all in one bag. Okay, cool. I
Yeah.
mean, that's, everybody's a lot of people want all in
Yeah.
one bags.
Basically, this is 1.5 pounds of our red Milo grain with Willie's Blend. It's our Willie's Blend all-in-one bag, and all-in-one bags are extremely challenging to pull off. All right, I had to really play around with it for a long time. It's a whole hitting the walls and the learning curves and all that. It's extremely difficult to pull it off. But I will say that number one, it has to be the procedure has got to be right. For example, one thing that I learned is you have to pasteurize the substrate first before you sterilize it in the bag. That's like one major factor right there. Another thing is that there has to be enough moisture in here to be able to, but it can't be too much, right? But it's got to be enough moisture in there so that at the end, once everything is colonized and you're ready to fruit, like you're going to be able to get fruits. You got to have enough moisture in there. So yeah, this is our Willie's Blend all-in-one bag. I will say that it is pretty much dialed at this point. Here's an all-in-one bag. Now this isn't a Willie's Blend all-in-one bag, just to be completely honest. This is a CVG all-in-one bag that we have in trials right now. But this is like the only one that I had that was colonizing, because I test stuff out all the time. But I just want to show you kind of what we're looking at here. You definitely want your. That's where I injected it. I don't use injection ports at all. So this is one that's ready for break and shake, ready for the next step here. So there's the all-in-one bags, right? So here is another product that we have. We have a cool collaboration with Darkroom Grow Labs, right? A collaboration that we're doing this with. And so these lids, this is a mycology lid, right? This is called the MycoLid Pro. And it is custom made to do the liquid culture game a whole lot better. I was doing it previous to me having this product and offering this product. I was doing it the old school way, where you kind of lean it to the side, and you inject through there, and you try to pull it in, and you kind of like you're fishing around for the mycelium in there, doing it that way. That way, it is, in my opinion, a lot more prone to getting contaminated. It does take time to pull several syringes. With this way here, now I know there's a lot of people out there who knows what these kinds of lids are, but this right here is great because it already has all the fittings and everything. So right here it has your lure lock fitting where the gas exchange filter goes into, and you can actually get any lure lock filter and it will also perform the same function. You got a cap right here that you can unscrew, and it's got a lure lock port, I guess, on it that you can actually screw an empty syringe onto. And it's got a tube that reaches down so you can pull the syringe, through here, through the tube into the syringe, and then you got your injection port there. And so, this is great. So when you're doing this, you're going to find there's no need to tilt the jar over to the side. And I can pull 40 syringes in like 30 minutes using this. It's been a game changer for me just in how much time it takes to pull LCs. If you're into this thing like me, you're pulling a lot of liquid cultures all the time. So it's definitely a great product to have, this MycoLid Pro right here.
Nice. Very cool.
Here's some of my agar dishes I wanted to show you. Yeah,
Some Jack Frost. Flawless.
Nice and ropey right here.
Yeah.
This one is Aper Angel.
There you go. Right about that distance is good. Yep.
Angel right there.
Great.
This is Enigma.
Yep. Cool.
Enigma right here. And this is one called Blue Yeti.
Nice.
These are a couple of dishes that I'm working with, a couple of strains that I work with. I have several more. Like I got several more over here.
Oh yeah.
But I don't run with a genetic unless it is completely ropey. I just feel like the more aggressive it is on the dish, the more aggressive it's going to be in your grow.
Yeah, I don't hate that logic, especially for a new grower who needs every advantage they can get, particularly if some of their other technique is not down. Now, if they're buying awesome products from you, then they're already they got a good head start. But yeah, 100% that rhizomorphic growth is going to colonize faster. It's going to be stronger. It's going to be more contam resistant typically. So yeah, not the worst strategy for sure. Now, what is this tub you got over here though?
The tub. So I run tubs all the time. So this is not like fully like grown up yet, but it's just kind of like what I had over here to show at the moment. So this is a true albino teacher tub. I put it S2B 1124, and this is where we're at right now with it.
There you go, man. What are you?
I used the old
weeks?
school polyfill, from a Walmart pillow. That's my style. Don't have to get too fancy and too expensive with things.
Good genetics and good manure sub. Mushrooms love you for it.
I love it when I see those blue dots, right? But so this is 5 pounds of Brown Treasure grain, red Milo sorghum, and this is 10 pounds of Willie's blend here, which goes in a 54 quart modified tub. I love the neglect tech, set it and forget it. I just think it's just more simple, and the less steps involved, the more simple it is with getting amazing results, without fancy equipment and stuff. Like I have people who tell me, "Oh, I'm gonna grow and I got everything. I got the humidifier, I got the temperature controller, the RH thing, and I got this and that." And I'm just like, man, I hate to tell you this, but you don't need any of that.
Man, that's like somebody showing up to gymnastics class and going, "Let me show you my triple backflip ending with a double somersault into a round off," and you're just like, "Hey buddy, how about you just try doing a cartwheel first?" Yeah, like just relax. Let's step by step here. Oh yeah, look at that. There you go.
I love looking at it, man. I could just like that's another thing I like about cultivating is like every day you have something to look at in the lab, see how it's progressed. It's a lot of fun.
I think you mentioned something about maybe running a little promotional sale
Right.
for okay, so what is the tell everybody what the plan is.
All right, so here's the plan. I'm doing a little promo right now for this podcast. I'm going to do a 25% discount on grains and substrate off of my site if you use the code geeky25.
Love it. All right,
Okay.
hold on. I made a little. Here we go. There we go. Promo code geeky25. Next 24 hours, literally 25% off. All right, I like it. That's a juicy sale, dude. That's the Cyber Monday after Cyber Monday sale right there is what that
Yep.
is.
Now that's only going to be active for within
Right.
24 hours.
The clock is ticking, guys. Yes, one day only. This is not a sales tactic. It is a 1-day sale. All right, now you're gonna do something, right? You sent me uh some really cool photos because you got these horses, you're in the tropics, and so guess what grows out of horse manure in fields in the tropics? Right here. Check this out, guys. Zerk found a massive cube. I mean, this is like beat your enemies. You can go find all those assholes from your childhood and you can beat the shit out of them with this cube right here. This thing is insanely big. So you got the spore print. So now what were you saying somebody's gonna
So, like as you said, on my property, they grow cubensis come about, and not all the time. I mean, the conditions have got to be right. So the temperature's got to be a little bit low. It's got to be a lot of rain happening, and then you'll just see them. You'll see them start popping up. And yeah, I couldn't believe it when I found that one, and I just found it like it's like a week ago, like a week and a half ago, something like that. I couldn't believe how big it was. That's the biggest cap, the biggest thing, the biggest one I ever seen, and I got it
all
right. It's
right.
right here. Like see how
Oh,
big.
I'll research the hell out of that right there.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So
There
I
you
call it I
go.
call them PRSG, okay, because it's Puerto Rican San Germans,
Nice.
right? Named after the town that it was found in, San German, right? It's not PR. It's not Puerto Rican Zerks, all right? It's Puerto Rican San Germans is what I call them. Interesting features about these guys because I have harvested and I have genetics from ones that I previously picked on my property, so I kind of know how they grow. But they have a long snaky stem. It's one of the characteristics of it. I think meant to get through dense grass, tall grass that grows there. And they usually have slightly larger size caps that are heavy spore producers. They are somewhat lighter tan in color. They seem to be, and they have kind of a cool little yellow, almost crisscross pattern on the stem. A little bit, you can kind of like vaguely see that when you look at the stem. Those are some interesting characteristics of those.
So one lucky person is getting that.
One order from this 24
Okay.
hour sale is going to get this monster spore print.
Okay. I like that. Now, whoever you are, that's a big ass spore print, my friend. So all I'm gonna say is, hey, you could grab some swabs and you could send one of those to your buddy MycoGeeky. I wouldn't complain. That's cool, man. I like that. Okay, so 25% off next 24 hours. Somebody's gonna get that monster spore print. Everybody's loving landrace genetics right now. I don't have anything from Puerto Rico, so that'd be super cool, man. Maybe I'll have to make an order and try to win me one of those.
They'll pack out a tub too.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like when you
Nice.
grow them, like they pack.
That's awesome. Cool, man. Well, that's exciting. So, all right, this was really good. We've talked a lot. I never got quite all of that story. I really appreciate you opening up. That's not always easy to do. I think a lot of what you talked about will resonate with a lot of people. Of course, I love hearing the cultivator story. The man, I just can't help it, but I'm obsessed with this. That's my favorite story to hear, my favorite story to tell. So yeah, man, I love it. So if you ever are thinking about needing some poo sub or just some really quality products, definitely give Brown Treasure a consideration. I'm gonna tell you right now, I got a lot of guys in my server that grow pans, and for some reason, there's about half of them are obsessed with hunting down and making their own poo sub, and I can't stop any of those guys. They're it's like part of the deal for them. But the other half are happy to buy it, and I always tell them, "Hey, well, you know where to go. I already know some of those guys buy Willie's blend from you." But yeah, if you're thinking about giving pans a try, that's where you go, Brown Treasure.
Can I tell you
If
a little
you're
story? Sorry.
Go for it, yeah.
Let's tell a story. So about pans, right? Now, yeah, like you said, it's 100% true. Willie's blend pans love Willie's
Oh
blends.
yeah, oh
Okay,
yeah,
in the TTF server, like in other places, and customers who send me pictures and stuff. I see that stuff all the time.
yep,
I've seen phenomenal pan grows
yep,
using our substrate. So the exotics, man, they
yeah.
love the Willie's blend. Let me tell you,
Nice.
pans, natalenses, um, even mutants, mutant grows, Enigma, Omni, all those guys are really really good with Willie's blend. Now, I was going to tell you a little story, little cool story, but about pans. But there are two types of psychedelic mushrooms grow on our property. It's the cubensis and the Pinellius cyanescens as well. Now, the cubensis are more common to find. The Pinellius are definitely more rare to see, right? But there was a time where I stumbled upon a patch of them, on the property. They're always growing out of the manure, right? And it was like it must have been like 7 or 8 of them just growing out of a patch. Beautiful. Man, I should have sent you that picture. You could have showed everybody. But anyways, so what I did was I got this idea, because I knew how rare they are, and I only had one pan experience, by the way, and they were from the pans that I picked for my property. I would like pick them and put them into a jar. One day I went to the beach and took a gram, and man, oh man, oh man, if you just all you've had is cubensis and you've never tried pans before, my gosh, you have no idea what you're missing out on. It is like next level, like top shelf. But anyways, that's not what the story is. Because I know how rare they are to find, I was trying to figure out a way to kind of keep them going, kind of, right? So what I did was over that same patch, right? I took a cement I took a cement brick and a wooden board, right? And because I figure I need to kind of create a little shade, I need to kind of like create, because otherwise it's going to get too hot, so I want to so I built this like little shade over this patch of pans, right? And just let them sporulate and drop spores right there inside in that spot. And after like a week or so, lo and behold, all these pans started growing up underneath that
Wow.
wooden shed. I had pictures of it.
Oh,
Um,
so they didn't even did they keep growing out of the cow patty or the horse manure, or were they also just growing around it?
they were just growing around it,
Oh, bro,
you know?
that is
Yeah.
fascinating.
And yeah, it was not like it was straight manure right there. I mean, they,
That
they,
is
they
fascinating.
started growing all around it. And I had taken pictures and I put it on Instagram, but I didn't put it in a post. I put it on my story all the time. I was always scared to put mushrooms as a post. I don't
Yeah.
like thinking if you put it on the story, it's just for one day and it's gone. Nobody will.
Yeah. All right,
Anyways,
send me those pictures. I'm gonna put it up on my Patreon so people that's like a safe place where we could show that off. I think people would love to see that. Bro, that is
yeah,
fascinating.
that was my Pinellius garden,
That
and
is fascinating.
now it didn't last for very long. Okay, I mean it did manage to grow up several pans, and it looked really cool. But then, a week and a half later, like fire ants just stormed the place.
Right.
And they fucked it all up, man.
Yeah.
Like those ants. There's a lot of ants and stuff on my property. Man, there's a lot of wildlife on there, man. If you check out my Instagram, you'll see it all the time. Just recently, bro, just recently, man, I should have sent you this picture too. But
It's all good. Well, now people have a reason to go check out your Instagram, so it's all good.
just recently, I was walking up to one of the containers, and on a cement brick, it's a boa constrictor.
Wow.
Just hanging out right there, and a snake expert ID'd it. It's a red-tailed Colombian boa.
Wow.
Now it was just a small one, you know, but apparently it's an invasive species. There's a lot of invasive species in Puerto Rico, the iguanas, and now these snakes in the Southwest, you know, right around. So they can get up to 7 to 8 feet long.
Wow.
Huge snakes. But this one, like, you'll see it on my Instagram right there. His little tongue sticking out and everything. And I was kind of like thinking, like, you know, what am I going to do with this guy? You know, I can't just leave him there, because, you know, then, you know, maybe one day he'll bite me, you know, and you don't want to get bit by one of those.
Rattlesnake soup, man. I bet you can make you some boa constrictor soup right there.
No, I'm a big, like, don't kill anything kind of guy. Okay. Like, I don't believe in killing, even like a fly. Like, I'll catch him and I'll put him outside. Like, I don't like, I don't know. I just don't like to kill stuff, you know. But but what I did was, I took a shovel, and I had this idea, like, I'm gonna pick him up, like around his head. Like, I'm gonna pick him up in the back of his head, because then what can he do with? He doesn't have arms. He doesn't have legs. Like, you know, what's he gonna do to me, right? And but I kind of held him down with the shovel so I could, like, you know, get to where I could pick him up. Man, you'd be surprised how he can whip that head around. He can whip the head. I mean, you can see all the teeth and everything. But I managed to hold him down, and I managed to pick him up, and there you go. I had picked up a boa constrictor, you know, with over here walking across him. Not everybody can do that, you know, but it's one of the cool benefits of being at the farm, you know.
Well, this was a lot of fun. Hopefully, there's some people out there that want to take advantage of this sale. I feel like this is fantastic. And man, if you guys are looking to try pans, I can corroborate everything he's saying. I know many people who swear by Brown Treasure, the Willy blend for their pans. Just you can't do much better than that. If you want to become obsessed down the road and, you know, drive to another farm out of state, or, you know, 50 miles down the road and create your own pile of poo, and sure, you can do that. But if you just want to get started in pans, or if you want to see what Poo Sub will do for any of your grows, I can tell you right now, you might be pleasantly surprised to see what your fruit look like, and what your flushes look like with really high quality Poo Sub. So, all right, dude. Well, this was great. We'll have to do it again. I'm about to go shovel my driveway, because we got about 6 inches of snow last night. My kids didn't have school yesterday because of it. And so you go enjoy your nice tropical weather in Puerto Rico, and I'll be shoveling snow here.
Puerto Rico is a beautiful, beautiful island. I feel extremely happy to be over here. You know, I love Puerto Rico. I love the people. I love the culture, and I do post that on Instagram too. When we go out and we see, like, some cool, like, salsa events and things like that. You know, people over here doing live music, doing drums, and doing all that cool stuff. I love that stuff.
Yes, 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 yes. I just really can't tell you how great it is to have you open up, talk about your whole journey, and all that. I don't always um I don't always get it all out of people. So it's really nice when somebody wants to tell the full story, and why you do what you do. It's one of the reasons I love you, and why I'm so happy to, you know, when you're like, "Hey dude, I'm thinking about doing a sale. You wanna do a repost?" Of course, man. Of course I'm gonna do a repost for you.
Yeah, let me just say that I really enjoy watching your show. when I'm in the lab, when I'm doing tubs, when I'm doing agar and stuff, it's great to have it there. And by the way, like we use USPS 3-day priority. A lot of people are like, oh, but you're in Puerto Rico, it's going to take a long time. Nope, we use
Yeah.
USPS 3-day priority.
Yep.
Sometimes we get there faster than you
Yep.
would have gotten elsewhere.
Yep.
All right. But anyways, my point in saying that was not that. My point in saying that was watching your show really helps make it all go smoother.
Cool,
Listening
man.
to you in the background. I love watching your show, man.
Awesome. All right, dude. Well, thank you so much for doing this. It was definitely a treat, and we will have to do it again.
Definitely, man. Thank you for having me on, man. I 100% appreciate it, and I'm grateful to be in this space. Very humbly, so to be in a position where I can teach and help others learn how to grow mushrooms.
All right, guys, that was Zerk of Brown Treasure Substrates. He's got all the cool stuff. You know, I make my sub, but sometimes I don't want to make my sub. I definitely don't make any poo subs. So always get my poo sub from Zerk. It's amazing. It's wonderful. It works great. If you're trying to grow pans, if you're trying to grow some exotics, give it a try, see what it's all about. Um, he is definitely on my short list of quality myco supply vendors. So check him out. And yeah, tonight, next 24 hours, 25% off an order. Doesn't get much better than that. That is pretty great, guys. So yeah, make an order. Enjoy all his cool stuff. And yeah, until next week, go grow some mushrooms.